Hi, this tutorial is all about Select and Mask. Select and Mask is a kind of built-in app in Photoshop that has its own interface, so it's a little mini app that will help you make selections. It has a lot of the same tools you've already used in it, and I'll show it to you in a minute. But first let me show you that I have open Select and Mask Road.jpg, Select and Mask Plane. So I can get to my Select and Mask interface by going under Select and choosing Select and Mask. That's always parked right there. Another way to get to it is if you have any of the selection tools activated, you'll see it right up in here in the options bar. So I'm going to click on that and notice that my interface has changed. Now I have different tools over here and just one big properties panel that I can scroll through. The first thing I want to do is change the view, or show you how to change the view. So by default we're sitting in onion skin. These are all just different ways that you can look at your outline. So depending on what kind of a object you're outlining, some of these will work better than others. Right now I'm just going to pick overlay, and then I'm going to come down here and I can change the opacity of the overlay. So the better, the easier it is to see the edge, but I don't want to opaque it all the way out because then I can't see the object. So I want to leave a little bit. So I work usually in about the 75 range right here. Also, if I'm working on something that's this color, I need a contrasting color, a different color, to be able to see what's going on. So I can click on this and then choose a different color. I'm going to pick the top tool right here. This is, if I roll over it, it'll show you that that's the quick selection tool. It's the same as the quick selection tool that we used a couple of videos ago. And I'm going to start by select subject, which is a good way to work, or just to try to start out with and see how that works. Oh, pretty nice. I've got some spots that it didn't work on, but I think we can deal with that. So down here in the wheels and stuff. And I'm going to use this one right here. This brush is the Refine Edge brush tool. This is something we haven't seen before. It's only here inside of Select and Mask. And if I make this a little bit bigger and then just kind of drag it, let's drag up here. It does a little bit better of a job, I think. And what it's doing is it's saying, Photoshop, look in this area right here and see if there's a better place to put the line than it is already, right? It is kind of like magic. So it takes a little practice, and it doesn't work on all subjects, but you can see it's working pretty well here. Okay, so I would go and do this to both sets of the landing gear to get that fixed up. I got a kind of a chunk out right here. If I turn this opacity down, that's supposed to be plain, but there's some reflection of the sky in it, so it didn't pick it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down one more, and this is my brush tool. So now with the brush tool on, it's kind of like working in quick mask mode, and by default it's set to subtract, so that's good because that's what I want to do. I'm going to Command Z that, move in a little bit closer, and I'm going to just take this little, take that little section out right there. So I can kind of paint. I can use a quick selection tool. I'm going to come up here again and use this guy, because that's sky between those wings and the flaps, I guess. I'm not an aviator. And I'm going to make my brush about this big and then just drag through here carefully and see if that works. Ah, beautifully, beautifully. Okay. So it takes some practice, and try all the tools and see what works for you. And then once you get it all outlined, we'll move over to the Properties panel. Okay, now that we have our plane roughly outlined, we can go into the Properties panel and see how we can refine some of those edges. So I'm going to switch my view to create a little bit more contrast. I'm going to switch this to on black. And the reason is I want to see the edges of all of this stuff down here. I'm going to zoom in, so Command plus a couple times, and I'm going to take a look at my landing gear over here. Yeah, let's see if the other one's worse. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Okay, so here's my landing gear, and you can see the edges have this kind of a white edge around them, and I don't want that. I want to smooth it out and get a little bit tighter. So if I move down to edge detection here, if I slide the radius over, and I'm going to move it over just 2 pixels, it makes a pretty big difference right here. So what 2 pixels in radius means is wherever that mask edge is right now, I'm asking Photoshop to go out 2 pixels in each direction and see if there's a better place to draw that line. And it's done that for me. If you crank it up too much, it starts creeping into other bits. So be careful not to go too far with this edge detection. So like I said, 2 pixels works pretty well for me. Smart radius works better when you have hard edges and soft edges in the same image, and we don't here. We just have all hard edges. So smooth is going to smooth out some of this crunchy edge stuff. Let me zoom in a little bit more. I don't often use smooth, but I see this kind of, and we're zoomed in really far, so this is kind of not necessary, but I'm going to turn smooth up a couple of pixels too, and you can see how it smooths out that edge. Contrast, I'm going to skip feather for a minute, but contrast is going to sharpen up that edge again. So again, use these things, try them out, see what works the best for you. Remember, the result is the best outline around the whole plane or the whole object. You can't always get everything you want in here, and sometimes you'll have to go do other things, but this is a really good way to start in most cases. All right, feather, I'm going to turn contrast back down a little bit, and I'm going to turn feather up just to show you what it does. It does what you kind of expect. Ooh, too much. It softens the edge of the mask, so not what we're looking for here. All right, and then this is one of my favorite tools. This is Shift Edge, and Shift Edge, if I crank it to the right, pushes the edge out, and I get more of that halo that I don't want. So guess what happens when I go negative on Shift Edge? Yeah, it pushes it in. Again, be careful it doesn't get in too much into your stuff, but that's a really nice way to do that. Okay, and then right now, I'm going to zoom back out. I'm going to zoom into another spot to make sure everything is looking good, nice and smooth. All right. And once I'm happy with it, I'm just going to say OK. And it took my plane and duplicated it, and then put a mask layer on top of it. So the mask is covering up the sky part. So right now, I'm going to drag this by the gray area, and I'm going to drag it over to our road. And then I'm still holding down the mouse button, and there we go. We have now, I'm going to use the move tool to put it up in the sky where it belongs. And that's it. I can now add a shadow, scale, and transform this guy to make him the size that I want him to be. I mean, he's looking pretty good right there. I think he's going to just stay right there for now.